We have all heard the story how man looked to the sky and marvelled how the birds could fly. Well, the Wright brothers did, and in this news story it indicates on their anniversary how they commenced.
The men may have been magnificent, but their flying machines at first weren't. Even the Wright brothers, who owned a bicycle repair shop, had a string of failures, until this day, exactly 100 years ago. They tossed a coin to see who would be the pilot, and Orville Wright was so excited when the flyer actually flew, he forgot to set his stopwatch. But an estimated 12 seconds and 120 feet later, history had been made. This ceremony was all about the soaring spirit of a soaring nation. So who better to make the point than an amateur pilot turned president?
The Wright brothers' invention belongs to the world, but the Wright brothers belong to America.
Time for the reenactment and for rhetoric to get a reality check. Who would have thought then and now that such a flimsy machine could actually fly, let alone change the course of history? But the fact is that the Wright brothers did transform the way that all of us live our lives today.
Thankfully, the Wright brothers didn't have the same setback, and after 100 years of flight, our celebration on December the 13th, 2003, at Jandakot Airport, that is a busy general aviation airport in Western Australia, saw some 190 pilots fly into Jandakot that morning, caught the bus from where they had parked their aircraft to come together at a briefing in the Royal Aero Club hangar at midday. All involved heard the briefing about what was named the Cavalcade of Flight to mark the 100 years celebration of the first flight. This kept the tower very busy, as the air traffic controllers had over 400 to 500 traffic movements of aircraft for the day.
So great to see so many people here with their aircraft to celebrate that famous occasion, just a couple of days less than 100 years ago, when the Wright brothers to the air, and for the time we had powered, controlled flight. And here in Perth, 100 years later, in a state that owes so much to what aircraft have done in terms of opening up the state, in terms of enabling people to find minerals, in terms of flying people in and out of places, in terms of many of us just enjoying ourselves, going down to the farm or going up to Coral Bay. And today, over Perth, close on 200 aircraft are going to fly past the city at 700 feet as a celebration of that small leap up about 20 feet up into the air 100 years ago.
The flight plan was described, and then the notams for the upcoming formation flight, where 4 in each group would take off. Groups were assigned according to size of aircraft and corresponding airspeed. The day was surely a cavalcade of aircraft, from the early Tiger Moths, Fox Moth, to the modern workhorse of most flight schools, the Cessna 152. One of the 152s being Tango November Oscar, the aircraft I went solo in back in May 2000. Another attraction was the World War II P-51 Mustang, nicely rebuilt and maintained and flown today by Drew Searle. There's also that unmistakable engine note from it on takeoff, and makes every head turn on the script. Jandakot is home to multi-million-dollar aircraft like the amphibious Cessna Caravan. Its size is amazing for carrying 12 passengers with only the one engine. Then to the jets, a Citation operated by China Southern Airlines, and then to a luxury Learjet. This is one of the 4 turboprop PC-9s that dropped in from Pierce to help show off their machine. Giving the viewing public a broad view of all shapes and sizes of those flying machines, and no mention of that tune of those magnificent men in their flying machines, because women also now fly. We made our way out to Juliet Zulu uniform near the active runway 24 right, where some aircraft were already returning. and others on their takeoff roll. All this while we await the time for our flight. Our group was Yankee, and we as number 3 discussed the flight with the 3 other pilots involved before our pilot Jared commenced his pre-flight of our Cessna 172 for takeoff. With Juliet Zulu uniform now rolling for the active. Everyone is strapped in. Following the group ahead of us as we head towards the holding point. All we can do now is wait until the way is clear ahead of us.
Clear for takeoff, Yankee 1.
Yankee 2, line up.
Lining up, Yankee 2.
With final checks done before takeoff, Jared then brings the aircraft to a stop at the holding point.
Yankee 2, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, Yankee 2.
Yankee 3, line up. Lining up, Yankee 3. Give us your office on the approach, 487, maybe 1,500.
487, maybe 1,500, English Oscar.
Yes.
Yankee 3, clear for takeoff. Clear for takeoff, Yankee 3. Yankee 4, line up.
After receiving our clearance from the traffic controllers, we begin our ground roll as our Cessna slowly reaches takeoff speed due to the weight being carried. The aircraft rotates and makes its way to 1,000 feet, endeavouring to catch up with the 2 aircraft ahead of us, while our 4th is following behind. As we climb, Kwinana Freeway is passed as it winds its way south towards Mandurah. We reach Lake Thompson, Then another climb to 1,200 feet as we head towards the shipyards. Then a heading change to the north at Woodman Point. Our track takes us on towards Cottesloe. Still at our assigned altitude, the flying conditions were perfect. No turbulence at all and no wind, as the ocean looks like a mill pond below. We continue north past Fremantle landmarks, starting with the marina, Fremantle Hospital, South Fremantle Oval, the city of Fremantle, followed by the bridges crossing the Swan River. Before long, we arrive at Cottesloe, our next heading change. Jared makes a 10-degree bank to the right to bring Juliet Zulu uniform towards the east with Mothman Park below. And the yachts from the Mothman Park Yacht Club enjoying a day of sailing on Freshwater Bay. We then descend to 700 feet for our contribution to the flyby. We come up onto the suburb of Dalkeith and the expanse of Melville Water and on towards Matilda Bay with Kings Park in the background. As we sit back and enjoy the view from this privileged height. Our wingman number 2 is seen to our right. Kings Park expanse is easily seen from this height and beyond towards Subiaco. We reach Narrows Bridge with South Perth on our right and the city of Perth to the left. At 700 feet, the city looks a picture postcard. Langley Park, seen in the foreground below, has been host to several fly-ins and once served as Perth's airport. At the end of our run down the river, we turn at Harrison Island with the Wacker and Gloucester Park to our port side. Our next assigned course change is Wyndon Bridge, and the assigned altitude for this leg is 1,500 feet. Jared and Ross in the front keep a watchful eye for the other aircraft in our group as we head towards Observation City at Scarborough Beach. We pass over the northern suburbs of Perth CBD with Beatty Park just coming into view in the foreground. and then on to Lake Munga and Mitchell Freeway, feeding the northern suburbs. And Herdsman's Lake. The coast is soon reached with another altitude change to 2,000 feet. We continue west out over the water to about 2 nautical miles from the coast before we turn south to head back towards Rockingham. From here we see the wide expanse of Perth and the central business district off in the distance. Further on we pass over Fremantle, its harbour and the marinas, with ocean-going yachts making their way through the swell below towards the mainland. While another group of 4 aircraft are soon spotted heading towards Cottesloe. We then have Garden Island to the right, and the airfield at Garden Island can soon be seen as we continue south. Jared then begins his final leg of flying as we head for Jandakot by passing over the mainland at Rockingham. As the southern suburbs begin to pass underneath, we then start our descent to 1,500 feet. Forestdale Lake is seen, the inbound reporting point for Jandakot, as we near the GAAP aerodrome. GAAP standing for General Aviation Aerodrome Procedures. We come within 6 nautical miles of Jandakot, where a mandatory radio call is required to inform Jandakot Tower that we are inbound.
X-ray, thanks very much. Yankee 3, 6 miles south. Yankee 3. Yankee 4, 6. Yankee 4. Yankee 1, Forestdale Lake.
Due to the other aircraft following behind us, Tower allows us to fly only the base leg for 2-4 left, before we turn on to final and with our flaps set for landing we continue on our approach path, flying the imaginary extended centre line for the runway until we reach the threshold of 2-4 left.
Make the number right. Yankee 2. Thank you very much. Yankee 3 is clear to land. Clear to land, Yankee
3. The throttle is then brought back to idle, flying speed is lost, and with only a few feet above the ground, Jared raises the nose of the 172 until the stall warning horn goes off in the cockpit. The main undercarriage makes first contact with the ground, followed by the nose wheel. Touchdown. Jared then comments that he was happy with such a short field landing and back to the parking spot for us from where we had commenced.
That's a short field landing.
The other pilots who have completed their flight are already enjoying the refreshments, while the final parade of the Tiger Moths return at the end of the day. The refuelers are already at work filling the aircraft with avgas to prepare them for another day of training tomorrow. Jared and Ross decide it's time to head back to Busselton, and as they taxi for the Active, they have prepared already for the flight ahead. Clearance is given by the traffic controllers and Juliet Zulu uniform commences its ground roll for takeoff speed until it leaves Jandakot.